Welcome to this transmission between worlds on Humans and Cosmos. I want to start just with a little alignment, so I invite you just to get comfortable and begin to open your body and your heart and your awareness to Cosmos. So maybe just begin by feeling your body as the earth. And feeling the electromagnetic field of your aura.
I don't know what you mean by. I'm feeling the electromagnetic field of your aura. How about a web search for it?
Thank you, Siri. That's good.
We're gonna pause.
You did all right though. I don't know what you mean by the electromagnetic.
Was that Siri? I thought I did disable the thing.
Siri can't. Okay, so maybe we'll do something a little bit different to start. And we'll do the meditation later. So I feel like this topic for me is like talking about a secret lover. You know, I know when I was 5, I got my first telescope because I got my brother. I conned him into spending all of our pocket money on this telescope because I used to go out under the sky. And when I realized as a soul that I was stuck here in this body with beings that didn't really know who they were and didn't really know where they came from, the stars were my friend. They were my first soul friend. They were like some sense of expansion of the wonder and the mystery of who we are at our core into the world. And, you know, for a civilization that's between worlds, you could say that the core issue with our civilization is that it's lost its connection to sacred source. And one of the outer expressions of that is our vertical relationship with cosmos, that we've lost our verticality. We've become crust dwellers under fluorescent lights in cities, that we've lost the connection to the core of the earth, and we've lost the connection to the cosmos that's all around us. And we live inside our minds, disconnected from the depths of what it means to actually be the earth and to be cosmos, wrapped up and incarnated in a human being. So last night, as I was walking home from the temple, a beautiful temple, Venus was just exquisite in the evening sky, and I've realized just how deeply my life has been woven into the meaning and understanding of cosmos. So Venus, not just the second planet from the sun that's a hot, ball of gas, but Venus is Lucifer in the evening. It's the 5-pointed star descending to Earth. It's our consciousness that brings our sense of beauty. It's so much more than just this scientific understanding of a planet. So I would begin just by feeling where we've lost our way, where science and religion, that used to be the two arms of the soul's relationship to our world, where they fell apart. And they largely fell apart, I think, because science was willing to evolve and religion wasn't. So science, and if you're a scientist, you understand that your current theories could fall apart tomorrow and be replaced by better theories as more data comes in, as we're able to penetrate more deeply into the mysteries that are around us. Everything needs to be put on the altar and allowed to be updated. But religion didn't do that. Religion likes absolute truths. And so what happened is the whole meaning part, the mythology of our relationship of meaning to our environment got atrophied and stuck. And so we just followed this path of materialistic science where data and observation and the external world became the God. And our whole deep world of mythological understanding of meaning, of relationship with the world that we live in fell apart. So, you know, if you just take one example, and I could give you hundreds of examples, but just one example of discovering that the earth was round, discovering that the earth went around the sun. This was a huge revolution on the planet in terms of our civilizational understanding. But the revelation didn't translate to our mythological understanding. So if we just take that shift from the fact that the earth is under our feet and the sky is above us, and all of our religions and mythological stories and creation myths had this idea of a sky god and earth underneath us. Once we discovered that the earth was in heaven rather than under heaven, that should have revolutionized our soul's relationship with our religious understanding of who we are and where we come from. So just pause there for a minute and feel the difference between earth under heaven, earth as this, you know, great plane of matter with the heavens above it, and feel the difference between that and the earth being in heaven, the earth being already surrounded by heaven, heaven penetrating it and passing through it. What would have changed in our whole religious understanding of who we are and where we are if we just embraced that one scientific fact and turned it into a mythological understanding? It would have revolutionized religion. And this is probably, that is the very core of this, of the age that's to come, is that earth and heaven are not separate. They're not two different worlds, that earth has always been and always will be right smack bang inside heaven, and heaven permeating all of earth. If we just made that shift, no other shift than that shift, it would have revolutionized the meaning inside human beings. Their souls would have come home. Heaven wouldn't have been some afterlife in some other dimension. It would be right here now. Earth would be heaven. We would be at home in heaven. Like, that is just a tiny fragment of what was waiting for us if we allowed ourselves to update our religious software to go along with updating our scientific software. So this, unfortunately, what happened with our religions is they have absolute truth. And they future-proof themselves. Like Christianity and Islam and other great religions have you know, said, this is the final word. This is the word of God. You can't question the word of God. And because you can't question it, you either have to believe it, or if you decide not to believe it, then you have to trash the whole understanding and mythology of human consciousness and civilization through all time, and begin again just with scientific material, just with data and facts that can be proven to your mind. So we are embedded in mythological understanding. And if there is to be a new world, the new world has to have a world story. It has to have a story, knowing that it is a story. All of our stories are just that. They're our current understanding of meaning that's come from interacting with our environment collectively and individually, and coming up with the best story we know that makes sense of that, so that that meaning is passed on like a river from generation to generation, and they're free to update it. What if our religions let themselves be updated for Christ's sake? Let themselves grow with the human heart and the human soul and its mysterious connection with cosmos? What if our religions allowed ourselves to move and develop and develop as the world shows itself to us around us? So it's a magical revelatory universe, not a fixed one with fixed absolute values. So that tragedy has meant that one half of our mind has continued to develop and the other half is atrophied. Our mythic, erotic understanding of being part of this beautiful cosmos and having meaningful relationship with it. Not just an insignificant speck on the crust of a planet far from the center of a galaxy with no meaning whatsoever, but a dynamic relationship, flowed heart connection with the cosmos around us. So, when science dominated religion, when astronomy took over from astrology, when all of our mythic meaning-making systems were just seen as superstitious, when our shamanic understandings of our connection to the earth and to cosmos was replaced with just this narrow mental perception, we lost our heart. We lost our relationship. We lost love. We lost the fact that we are loving beings of a loving universe. And that love itself has deep meaning to us. A life without that love, without that meaning, is not a life worth living. A life of just mind, of scientific understanding, is a life devoid of the deep reasons why we incarnate. So a civilization that's lost its heartfelt, meaningful relationship with the world that it lives around us, and that has anchored itself just in scientific understanding in the mind, looking out through dead eyes at a dead world, is the very core of what needs to shift. If our civilization is to open its soul and its heart again and become a civilization based on love. If there was just one thing that I could give the world if I was dying tomorrow, it would just be this. It would just be to remember your cosmic origins. Remember yourself as love. Remember yourself as the whole thing, not just this little thing called a human being with your little selfish preoccupation with your survival. Like, remember who we are, not just individually, but collectively. And if we allowed ourselves to take the deep understanding of science, and the great scientists were also mystics, Einstein, even Newton, like the people that have really allowed their souls to understand cosmos, they weren't scientists in the narrow version. They had a mythical understanding. They knew that the universe was music. And we're so far lost that understanding, even though we live in the frozen music, that the days of the week that we named, they're the planets that orbit the sun in beautiful cycles of rhythm and sound and frequency and number. We are embedded in a musical universe that is vibrational, and that we are, as Einstein said, just biochemical garments that vibrate with the music of the spheres. That's who we essentially are. And this crazy separation that's allowed us to feel ourselves as individual and as egos looking out on the world as dead points within a pointless universe is broken the heart of the generations of humanity. So I want to give you just some pointers about how cosmology can radically change everything about us. Just as when we discover new things in the scientific world, they are upwellings of our knowledge base. So as we discover things through the soul, they should turn the soil of the soul of humanity, that soul isn't fixed, it isn't locked in absolute truths. It's a living, breathing, growing thing. And that soil needs to be turned. The soul of the world needs to breathe, it needs to grow. So, all of the great religions are stories in the soul of the world. The story of Christianity is the story, never mind the historical Jesus, it's the story of the sun god. The son come to earth, be crucified, and go back to the Father's house. Our whole understanding of light and consciousness and reason is a solar tradition. It's an understanding that our awareness came from greater sources of awareness, and that awareness has been stepped down into our individuality. And part of the soul's job is to remember who we are as souls, to contact our source, and to live a life that brings the love and depth of who we are as souls into incarnation. So religion is a great story, and that story updates itself over time. So in a world that was connected to its mythos, when we just discovered recently, when humans all over the planet took a photo, from all of these observatories of M87, this great black hole at the center of the galaxy of M87, that should have caused a revolution in religion as well as science. It's not just a little piece in the newspaper about, oh, we, took a photo of this black hole. This is interesting. That's revolutionary, totally revolutionary to the soul of the civilization of humanity. Just like when we discovered that the Earth went around the sun, total revolution. It changed totally the relationship and brought the Renaissance to Europe. It brought radical transformation to the soul of humanity. So was this understanding that the sun going around the center of galaxies and dark matter and dark energy and all of these revelations that come through scientific understanding, just like go to the Science Journal. The whole planet should be in upheaval with this revolutionary understanding that shifts everything in the psyche of humanity over all time. And yet we don't, because we're locked still in a religious understanding and a mythological understanding that has its roots in the Middle Ages. And there isn't any education or teaching of the soul. So that now we have become, the scientific materialism has become the new religion of the world. And people have lost meaning, and their mental health issues are there because the soul knows it's embedded in a living, loving universe that it needs relationship with. It needs actual relationship with, not just with other people, but directly. So whales and dolphins were my first shamanic teachers. Because when I went to university, I decided I didn't like humans that much, and I wanted to work with cetaceans. Something in me really responded to them. I love scuba diving. I love being in the ocean. I love the feeling of being part of that liquid world. And these felt like other sentient beings that I wanted to get to know. And so because I had scientific training, I went to university, I kind of bought the scientific paradigm. So I tried to study the behavior of cetaceans, like when did they show up, and what time of the year did they come, and were they breeding or not, or what was their habit patterns. And then as I did that for a while, it was a bit boring. So I also included some, playing flute music to them. And I even got a dolphin suit, with a big flipper. And I would try to do dolphin moves with them, try to form relationship, a bit like coming to a tribe, like an anthropological tribe, and pretending that I'm one of you so that you'll trust me and blah, blah. All of this is a way of kind of scientific, but also then human relating. And then one day I realized, why don't I just connect with them on the inside, like deeply of my awareness as part of the sentient life of the earth. And there's a part of me that is dolphin, is whale. So I just need to drop into that part of me and realize that I'm already part of something, the same thing that they're part of, and that I can have a direct relationship. I don't need to flap around in my dolphin suit and play flute to them. I just need to talk to the part of me that is that. And the first time that revelation happened, the next day the dolphins arrived, after the waking up from that dream. I realized, oh my God, it's like there is a shamanic relationship with our environment. We are not just a skin encapsulated ego with one little piece inside here. The source of my awareness is the same as the source of their awareness. If I can go to that source and if I can vibrate there, then nothing in the universe can stop the relationship occurring, because the relationship already is. You're touching something that already is. And this is the piece that is going to help us on the planet, because we live in, even as the whole of humanity, we live in ethnocentrism. We live in what that geologists are calling the Anthropocene, the time when humans came together and made such a big impact on the planet that geology changed, that the whole, not even mind species, annihilation, but the whole history of planet Earth has been changed by human beings. And those human beings still think that they have dominion over nature. They still think that they're separate from nature. They still think that they're crust dwellers in their little houses with their series, living separate lives. So if humanity as a whole is to find new civilization, it has to find its shamanic origins as part of the sentient earth, that what's inside human awareness is the same, just a variation of the same life that is in the sap of the whole earth, that everything is part of that one life. And we can talk about it, and we can talk to our indigenous elders and have this concept, but unless we have shamanic awareness of that, unless we find the source of our own being and realize that that source is not separate from the source of everything that's around us, we're not going to come into relationship with the earth. We're going to live as a fearful humanity worried about climate change that's going to maybe destroy it. And we forget who we are. We forget why we're here. We forget that we're part of this thing. So it's one thing to have lost our shamanic relationship to the earth. That's already a huge tragedy that's resulted in this catastrophe that's in front of us. But we are also cosmic shamans. They're also related to cosmos, that inside human beings is not just the energy and the life force and the awareness of what it is to be sentient earth. We're also sentient cosmos. That our awareness and our consciousness is not just of human origin, and so then we get into the subject of aliens, this whole thing of looking for spaceships to arrive and other beings from out of space, which is a very materialistic way of missing the point of being cosmic shamans. That if there are aliens, just like dolphins and whales, they actually have the same root at the core of them, the same root of awareness and of consciousness that lives at the core of human beings. So you're never going to discover the outer alien in any meaningful way unless you unite with the inner alien, unless you actually go home to your alien origin as consciousness of cosmos. And then in that place, of course, you now become something far greater than just an individual looking across countless light years of space, hoping for a radio flash from somewhere. So this disconnection and becoming the individualized wave of one human being, instead of recognizing and reverberating with the fact that we are everything. We are cosmos, we are earth, this is us. Yes, we may be incarnating all of that through one individual human being, but that's not who we really are. We're not this isolated point within a vast universe. We're that universe itself expressing in an isolated point. So the restoration of our shamanic relationship with cosmos is an essential part of any new story. And that story of humanity has to be the singularity. The singularity that M87 and black holes and so on are showing us is that in the core of the human psyche are these layers. And those layers are exactly the same as the layers in cosmos. One of the great things that we have done in the past is mapped heaven and earth together. All of the great old traditions, whether it's the Egyptians or whether it's the Glastonbury tour or whatever temples, they're temples of heaven on earth. They're temples that relate heaven and earth. So our deep mythologies and our stories to come can't be separate from both science and religion in its highest sense, which is the meaning-making relationship between developing human consciousness and the world around us, the stories that we tell ourselves. So mythos and logos have to go together. And as we discover one thing, we discover the other. So in a world religion that is not doctrinated into Christianity or Hinduism or anything, and in a world science, you end up with the same things. As we grow in our understanding, the inner understanding has to complement it. So as we understand about black holes, we're also understanding about our own psyche. just as the sun represents the soul. And as we understood the sun more, and from the Heliopolis traditions in Egypt, the whole history of humanity is that the understanding of sun and light became the core of a civilization that's passing away. We thought that enlightenment, that consciousness, that reason, that understanding was the God. And if we could get into the best reasoning and understanding that we could find, then we would create a world. But then we discovered that consciousness and light is just a little speck within a great dark universe. Even the little point of the sun is going around a black hole, and that black hole is part of a universe that's filled of 90% of invisible darkness that the lights are just points shining in. So now we have to, what we should be doing is re-looking at the whole core of who we are as civilization and who we are as human beings, and finding our dark. What is the core of dark? What is our own black hole? If our sun is the soul, if the personality is the earth, if our unconsciousness and our eros and our emotions are the moon, what's the black hole of our being? What's that point of singularity? What's the Father's house that has many mansions, with a father and mother are one, where the souls emanate from? So that is a revolution in religion, as well as a revolution in science, and as well as a revolution in the way that we live our lives. If at the core, cosmological understanding sits at the core of civilization, then if your personality sits at the core of your life, then you will have that kind of life. If your soul sits at the core of your life, you'll have that kind of life. If your monadic point, if your dark center sits, you'll have a different kind of life. And an integrated life is when all of those places are together like they are in cosmos, that there are galaxies, and the galaxies have billions of stars, and those stars have planets, and those planets have moons, and they're all coexist together in a great field of mythic understanding and scientific understanding. Yes, we can understand the data points, but also there's relationship. These are great, great relationships. So as above, so below was one of the great mystic understandings. It was Hermes, Thoth, as above, so below, as outside, so inside. And if we could just take a few basic cosmological understandings, one of them is when you look into cosmos, you notice that whatever you circle is inherent inside you. So the religious understanding of this would be God transcendent is also God immanent, that what is outside of us is also inside of us. And the fact that what's outside of us is inside of us is what orders us in the world that we're in. So for example, a planet that is about to be a star is orbiting the star. That's like its ashram. That's like its teaching place, its educational place. The planet Jupiter has this huge electromagnetic field. If it was a little bit bigger, it would have been a star. So it orbits a star. Planets orbit stars because they have stars inside them. And if you go inside the crust of the earth and you get to the mantle and the core, you find the very things that are outside inside, but they haven't revealed yet. So in religion and in spirituality, this is when you're about to burst into flame as a star, as a soul, when your soul is about to come into nuclear explosion inside you, and instead of basing your life on your personality and your reflection of your environment, you're about to base your life on the ignition inside you of your creativity, of your irrepressible expansion as a supernova into the world, you normally find a sun, someone who is already alive and awake and vibrant, and you orbit around them for a bit, whether it's someone online or whether it's a teacher or whether it's a great mystic from the past that like a Rumi or someone that is giving you light so that you can find your light. You orbit that which is about to burst forth inside you. And if we understood that, it's just as a principle that's part of our education, it's part of our relationship. The same relationship with planets, the suns, happens inside our families and inside our schools and so on. If we understood that simple principle, then we would empower people around us, help them burst into flame instead of all of the power dynamics of the world. Okay, so that's just one simple principle, that you orbit that which is about to arise inside you. So a planet becomes a star. A star, at the end of its life, if it's the right size, becomes a black hole. So that's why it orbits a black hole. A very simple principle, but if it was applied all the way across our mythic understanding of how to live with each other in relationships, instead of either having hierarchies of like pyramids, where some personalities at the top, or having everybody's in a circle and everyone gets a speaking stick and everybody's the same, we'd understand that humans are like cosmos, that we are ordered according to layers of our souls, layers of our evolution, that we're all in a different evolutionary cycle. And all of that is divine. We'd allow ourselves to find our place and find our orbits and grow our beings in relationship with other beings. And if we then understood the soul, all of our scientific understanding of stars, okay, so how they come into being, how they have explosions in their core of the heart, what happens at the end of a life cycle of a star, all of that is the soul. Our sun is called soul, like it's fucking obvious. All of the life cycles of stars that the science understands, that has an inner mythological meaning. It's the meaning of you as a soul, how you grow, what your future is, how you will come to your own end, where you will supernova, or will you collapse like a red dwarf, or will you become a black hole? This is the story of the evolution of the soul. And so as our science understands these things, our religious understanding, our understanding of who we are as beings needs to come into relationship with that. And every time we discover a new artifact, there should be a deep inner revolution that comes with that. And every time we have a deep revolution in the inner, it helps us discover an artifact. Every time science goes in and discovers a new Higgs boson particle or splits the atom or whatever, that's a revolution in the psyche of humanity. Every time a group of humans penetrate deeper into love and the mysterious relationship with the consciousness of cosmos, that should result in scientific breakthroughs and understandings. So we don't casually take a picture of M87 and think nothing's going to change. Like, that's a radical act. So like Nietzsche says, when you gaze into the deep, it gazes into you. When you discover something new, your life has changed. We all understand that in our own initiatory journey, that to take initiation is to reach a point of no return, that if you take another step and you discover something new, it radically changes your whole life. You can never go back to when you did not know that thing. So, you know, science is not just this thing that happens out there that then gives us new clever little gadgets and we'll one day maybe solve the world because we'll be able to make love to a computer instead of a real human being. It's like science is so critical to the human psyche because it's one of the expressions of the human psyche. But when it's disconnected from our heart and our soul, we forget that this is us, remembering ourselves, discovering ourselves in a totally new and radical way. So to contemplate the infinite, to open ourselves up to who we really are as cosmos is a huge driving force in the human spirit. That we have, that religion and mythology and so on used to be like rivers that help the human soul in that journey. And now we don't have those rivers. Our mythologies have become atrophied. They've become small. So creating a one world story that is part of the world that we're going into is going to be an essential thing for humanity to do. And we know some parts of that story, it's going to have to include humanity as Earth, that it can't just be the human species protecting itself from evil nature to survive as long as possible in our high rises. Like we'll know that's over. So we have to remember ourselves shamanically as part of Earth. Like that's a critical part of any surviving of the human species into a civilization that's to come. But the other half of that is we have to restore our relationship, our cosmic relationship with the origins of awareness and consciousness, where they came from. That we're not just like frisky dirt that somehow developed a neocortex and then have this, phenomena called consciousness, that we are also at our roots, that awareness. And that awareness is not just originated on Earth. That awareness is permeated through the whole of cosmos. So that's us too. And we have to remember that. So when we come back to, meditation and the paths into awareness that have been left, cut and diced in the many different spiritual traditions of the world, they're supposed to be guidance for the soul to find its origin. They're supposed to be the path home. They're supposed to be the way that the soul remembers itself, remembers its origins. And so that soul, going back to Lucifer and the five-pointed star, there used to be Lucifer and Hesperus. One was the star fallen into matter. That was consciousness identified with form. And that star that falls into matter should find its brotherhood and sisterhood with consciousness of all things. That's sentience, that's shamanic power, to remember yourself as the trees, as the oceans and the whales and the sand and the mountains. It's like, that's the sentience of life in form. And the resonance and vibration of that is something that comes into our bodies. Our bodies should be not just these dense things that we look after. Our bodies are musical instruments. They should be vibrating with the notes of sentient life that the whole planet's vibrating in. We shouldn't need to read in the newspapers that the rainforests have been destroyed, because our bodies should be telling us directly. They should be like vibrating that information on the daily fucking news of this living biochemical frequency modulator that is the human body. We shouldn't need to be told about things that our body is already feeling if we just remembered to tune our shamanic frequencies back to where they're supposed to be. So that's the five-pointed star fallen into matter, so that we can feel through these bodies and minds everything that's around us and not shut ourselves off from it. But the risen five-pointed star also is so that our awareness, when it's freed from just being in the body, when it transcends the body, that our awareness remembers itself as the subtle worlds, not just the shamanic worlds, but the transcendent subtle worlds, the subtle worlds, the pristine worlds of consciousness and awareness that permeate everything, that flow through the whole of cosmos, that are well beyond just the incarnation of a human being, that their awareness itself, vibrant and pulsating through the whole universe. So these two parts of our awareness, our spiritual understanding and our shamanic experience, connect us with the fact that we are Earth and we are cosmos. We are this pristine awareness, and we are also sentient, vibrating, erotic life. And the relationship with these two parts of us has to form at least part of whatever the story is that is coming. Okay, so one of the points then in cosmos is that you orbit whatever is bursting forth inside you. But there is other things, like if you want to transition from one level of self, from one level of cosmos, which you are, to another level of cosmos, you need to change your orientation. Okay, again, in science, the North Pole of the Earth it tilts at 23.5 degrees, and it's at a different relationship to the solar system. So if we want to move from Earth to solar system, we have to change our North Pole. So what does that mean mythologically? It means every so often when you make a big initiation in your life, your true north is changed. What that means is everything that you believe to be true, the guiding line at the core of your being, the truth that you know that orients you to true north, that has to change if you want to take initiation, because the axis of the Earth is different than the axis of the solar system, is different than the axis of the galaxy. These are all fields within fields, and they all have different true norths. They have different accesses. And as you change and grow, if you really want to take initiation, you're going to have to change the thing that was most important. What was most important in your life up until this point is now not the thing that's most important. Now something else is most important. And that revolution is not something that the ego takes very well. The ego wants to survive intact, get a little identity, hold on to it, get a stock portfolio and just charge on through. But if your soul really wants to grow, it's going to have to grow on the upheaval of everything that it knew before. It's going to have to open itself into the mystery and wait for the new alignment to come through. So if we're in a global world between stories, our true north is disappearing. And we all know that it's going. We all know that we just can't rely now on mind and the authorities and the experts to fix it all for us. We all can see that that's not going to work, but we don't know where the true north, the new north is. So one of the other cosmic laws that Cosmos teaches us is, if you want to make transition, first of all, you need to decentralize. And this is, last week, the decentralized cryptocurrencies and everything else. Decentralize from the point of who you think you are. If you want to make transition, decentralize from the point into the field. Okay, so this is the other thing that Cosmos teaches us. It's not just Earth and sun and black hole. They exist in fields. The field of the Earth is the electromagnetic field. It sits within a field of the heliosphere, which is the sphere of radiation from the sun. And the sun sits within a field of the galactosphere. So at the edge of the heliosphere, where humans, by the way, have gone, here's a significant piece in human history, Voyager 2 spacecraft penetrated the outer part of the heliosphere and went into the galactic energy. That's the psyche of humanity penetrating out past the field of the sun that it lives within. So all of these fields already exist within each other. The field of Earth exists within the field of the sun, exists within the field of the galaxy. Earth is already in heaven, and the vibrations and radiations of those fields are present within the fields inside them. Okay, so that cosmic rays are passing through every atom of your body right now. In fact, the latest news I saw the other day was that they're now saying those cosmic rays occasionally collide with atoms of your body. What would happen if our consciousness turned into helping those collisions happen, the shamanic connection? Light rays are passing through. So if you want to shift to decentralized, first of all, you have to let go of the point of being the point. So if you want to shift from your personality to the soul, you have to stop being the Earth. And if you think about the Earth with its aurora borealis, if you just imagine now in your inner world as you're listening to me that you can feel yourself as Earth, and you can feel this electromagnetic radiation, north and south pole, the whole aura of the Earth. And you can feel at your north pole and your south pole, the aurora borealis, which is the play of the heliosphere, of the energy of the sun, all of these solar radiations coming in, and your north and south pole. You can feel that as the Earth. So then now, if you want to decentralize, instead of being the Earth with the sun pouring in, become the sunlight. So let go of being the Earth and follow the path of connection to the sunlight hitting your electromagnetic field. Now be the sunlight. It's a very small shift with a great result. Because wherever there are two things, you've got sunlight hitting your electromagnetic field, just be both, and then just be the sunlight. Okay, so this is the same step that you take of being inside your chakra system, being your light body, and now being the light that's pouring into your light body. If you can make that shift, then you can shift in meditation from being consciousness to being awareness, to being the light that is not centralized in the self of a human, but is just awareness. Okay, so now your awareness, you can stay as the sunlight for a while. So the next step is find this emanating source of yourself as sunlight. Okay, so you move from being the planet. So now you are the field of sunlight. Now find your origin, which is another point. Now you've found the sun. And in human metaphysics, now you're your soul. Now you can feel the part of you that has been shining on your incarnating self, your earth self, through long incarnations. You are the source of your own salvation. You are your own Christ returning to earth. You are your own soul that is shining and has always been shining as your earth has been going through all of these cycles over time. So now you have found the source of the light that you experienced as epiphanies when you were a personality. Okay, and you are still a personality. You just shifted your identification. You've shifted your awareness to being the source of the grace and the light and the radiance that your personality experiences in its high points. Okay, so then how do you get from the soul to the monad, or from the sun to the center of the galaxy? Well, now you have to be aware that you are the source of this heliosphere, of this field of sunlight, but that field of sunlight is interacting with a dark halo of the galaxy. Your heliosphere is held within a galaxy. So again, find that place where they vibrate at their edges, and then just gently become that which is impacting the heliosphere, not the heliosphere itself. So then vibrate as the dark, as the cosmic interstellar energy that the heliosphere is sitting within. There's a denser form within. And if you find that and you vibrate with that, then seek to find its center, and you'll find the black hole at the core of the galaxy. So the same thing metaphysically in your own being, you can make these journeys in awareness, because when you realize that your awareness is not located inside your own body mind, that your awareness is an inherent part of cosmos itself, then you're allowed to go home. You're allowed to have that awareness. The terror that most people experience on those event horizons, on those places of transition, is that, oh my God, if I take this next step, if I become the sunlight, I will never be Earth again. I will never be able to be Earth again. But that's not true. In the same way that when you go to sleep every night and you go into deep void state and sleep, you still wake up. But if you do it consciously, now you wake up, not just as the Earth, but you can feel the sunlight in you. And beyond the sunlight, you can feel the cosmic rays, because your eternal nature and your infinite nature are penetrating your soul and your body mind and your awareness sitting here right now listening to my voice. So the fear that we feel at transition is the fear of the unknown, the great fear that if we take another step to move forward, we will not be able to be who we were. And the truth is that you can't be who you were from inside, but now you become in the world, but not of the world. So for humanity to make its change to a new story, it has to let go of the old story. And that letting go of the old story is a terrifying process, because it's what we know. It's our true north. It's the thing that's worked before, and it's just stopped working. And we're taking a long time to accept that it's stopped working. Just as on our soul journey, you know, we keep doing the thing that we're doing, but it's not turning us on anymore. Why? Because there's no meaning in it. It's become meaningless. It did have meaning, but it's no longer has meaning. So this is a sign that you need religion. And I don't mean Jesus or the Buddha, inside yourself, which is to make meaning, to feel the meaning through relationship with the greater whole that we're part of. So along with our understanding and our science, we have to keep growing and developing our religious instinct, our spirituality, our mythology, our understanding of where meaning comes from. And we need to know that as we're going through those changes, that there is times of great terror, where everything is swept away and we don't know who we are anymore. We're on that interface between the field of Earth and the field of the sun. We're at that place between the heliosphere and the galactosphere. We're on the event horizon of the black hole, where everything is being torn apart and time and space are not existing as we go into emptiness. So these are journeys that we don't just make with our scientific telescopes and microscopes, we make with the human soul. These are soul journeys. And the fact that we don't know that they're soul journeys anymore, the fact that we don't know that when human consciousness penetrates into the mystery, that's all of us. And that opens up possibilities for us that didn't exist before. Opens up possibilities for meaning, for relationship, for help from other stages of ourself that we didn't have before. You can see this matters to me. Like somewhere in here for me is home. Is a deep reconciliation with what it means to be a human being, and also what meaning that is, the big questions of who am I and why am I here and what's this all about. These are questions that we don't have to have intellectual answers to. These are questions that our soul can find the answer to, not as understanding, but as experience. And for me, I don't know about you, but for me, being here as a soul has been a lonely journey. It's been lonely feeling disconnected from my roots, from being part of a civilization disconnected from its roots. This great longing principle at the core of my soul that doesn't know the details, but the yearning at the core of the human soul for its source, for the meaning of why it is that we're alive. That to me is a sacred and holy thing that we're not taught that belongs to us. We're taught that someone out there has an answer for. A religion can tell us, give us meaning, or a psychologist, or the latest science can give us meaning. But if we do not find meaning for ourselves, if we don't let the core of our soul find our way home through all of these portals, then no meaning is useful, because it hasn't arisen from us. Our meaning has to come out of the core of our own soul's relationship with its environment. Our death has to ripen inside us. Our life has to ripen inside us. So the lack of attention in our education systems to encourage the ripening of the human soul. It's ripening through discovery and personal discovery and failure and learning new things. The same way that science grows is the way the soul should be growing in its relationship with its origin and its source. And one of the beautiful things about Cosmos is also beautiful about the human soul is that we exist within these fields, and these fields have support. So once you find the field of your soul, of the field of your awareness, and then you seek the source of that awareness, what you find is greater awareness, and you find other beings already are there. This is what teachers are. They're not people that give us, scientific data. They're people that support the evolution of our soul by radiating that principle that we are seeking. So we exist within it. Your masters, your bodhisattvas, the beings that we exist within, they are around us. Our souls are growing in their auras. And when we understand that and feel that, then our own evolution as souls is supported. There is love, and not just, divine love. There is love of other human souls that are radiating their awakening to us. And we, in turn, create fields of beings that we support. We support the radiation and the yearning of their soul to find its source, its origin, its home in not just the earth, but in cosmos itself. So if we take that principle further, then we realize, okay, all of these stories of aliens, all of the stories of the Anunnaki coming and the gold mine, and whatever the stories, the dragon people, whatever, they're mythical understandings, or trying to get a human awareness of where did awareness come from in its cosmic origin? What source us? Where do we go when we go home? Who are the teachers of Earth? If Earth is between stories, just like as a human being is sometimes between stories, everything has fallen away. You've lost your job, you've lost your relationship, nothing has meaning anymore. You find a good friend to talk to, or maybe you go to a therapist, maybe you go to a Jungian therapist and do some individuation, So where does Earth humanity go? I often have this fantasy of like, maybe humanity got to a point where we actually admitted that we were struggling, that we didn't actually feel like the latest thing would solve it for us, that things weren't working anymore. So what if there was a cosmic source close to us that we could just go and sit down on their couch, have a chat, have a cup of tea and say, look, we seem to be at a crisis point and we need help. So, imagine you're maybe it's the star Sirius. You're a civilization in Sirius, and humans are not the only civilization, and so these civilizations are trying to help each other. And so this doesn't need to be like channeled information from the Syrians or the Pleiadians. It just needs to be a recognition that the source of your awareness is the same source that has already permeated the universe. And that maybe humans, not just what science tells us that there are all of these other planets, and on those planets there might be civilizations and blah, blah, blah. Our soul, our shamanic awareness, when it gets to a certain point, awakens. And when it awakens, it realizes Earth humanity is not the only game in cosmos. Earth humanity is like an adolescent experience of consciousness within a field of adults that can help. So, this reaching out beyond even the bodhisattvas of Earth and the beings that have gone through Earth school and have some wisdom and that they're sharing it, means that we start to come into our cosmic home. And this cosmic home is not what we think it is. It's got powers waiting there. It's got consciousness just waiting there. And it could be that we're just quarantined until such times as we have enough humility to actually open up to it. So part of the alien story is that part of the myth of the soul, evolution, and cosmos is we project out onto cosmos what is inside of us, as well as listen to what's out of it. So that's why astrology and everything else has a great projection, a projection of humanity onto it, as well as a listening to what's coming. So when we create alien movies like Independence Day and so on, we're projecting that if there are aliens out there and they're anything like us, watch out. We don't really want to have anything to do with them. And this is the phase when you're in your psyche and you're not going to go to a therapist or whatever, because you just believe therapists are just con men, because you would be a con man if you were a therapist. You believe that people are as selfish and manipulative as you are, and you're stuck within that and you want to get out of it, but you can't trust anyone, because anyone that you could think of trusting, you're just projecting all of your own stuff on them, so that you don't actually believe that there is anyone out there who's capable of love greater than you are. And so therefore, you're not capable of love. So you're fucked. You're in a world of people just like you. And the people, if you're in a world with people just like you, when you're at that stage, when you're going through that transition, you're screwed, because there's no one you can trust, because you can't trust yourself. You don't even know who you are anymore. You're in dissolution. Those are the times where a great cry goes out from every human soul and from the collective human soul of humanity. I need help. I need fucking help. And I have to trust that I'm in a friendly universe. And I have to listen to what that help might be. And I have to let it change the course of my life. I have to let the North Pole that I once trusted dissolve for a little bit. I have to be in a cocoon. I have to be in the meltdown of everything so that something else can emerge. And the only way that actually allows me to have the courage to do that is the experience that my soul has of being loved. This is the experience the earth has of the sun. Like if we stop just seeing sunlight as something that we understood with our scientific brains, and we felt the love in the sunlight, if we could just feel sunlight as love, and we could just remember that the sun that strikes our face, that gives life to our earth, is an expression of love. And that the cosmic rays that penetrate everything, that's another expression of love. It's not the love that we know as the sun. And the love of the sun is not the same as the love of the earth that will nourish with its soil, its fertility, its sap rising in us. These are all different expressions of love, but they're all love. So learning how to tune in to the next wave of love that we need, which may not come like the old one, may not come in the same way, that you can't keep going back and trying to replenish soil that you've already used up, that you need to find a new source of love. So if we could open ourselves to that love, we would then be able to make the change. So I want to talk about aliens not from a place of clever green men with great gadgets that make crop circles and that can, bring us the latest thing that will help us, be who we are, but get through the next stage. I want to feel aliens as a beautiful therapist, as a loving kindness from the universe that might come and support us to make the transitions that we need to make. And this doesn't mean that they have to arrive in spacecrafts. It just means that our own awareness needs to get to the point that we're able to shamanically be in that field, be in the field of intelligence and love that is already permeating the universe. Just as, when you're in that heartbreak place and something in you breaks your heart open and you find something, your soul just trusts someone, you don't know why. And you go and sit with them and you break open your being and your heart and you receive such grace and such wisdom and such holding that supports your journey. And you wonder, why the fuck didn't I talk to you before? Like, you've been in my life all of this time and I've never known that this was in there waiting for me. So it's the same. Humanity is still not quite at the point yet where the collective cry from the human heart, the collective hopelessness from the soul that we can do it ourselves, that we can find our own path, that hasn't reached yet its crisis point. But when it does, that's when we have to feel with our being, with the singularity that is the human soul. We have to feel where the source of radiation comes that is already nourishing us, that's already supported human civilization, and that can support us in the next journey. And so this can't be alien. It's got to be us. So alien implies other, that it's something other than us, something outside of us. And when someone truly shows up as a soul healer or teacher for us, they show up inside us at the same time as they're outside. They can't just be outside of us so we can say, well, that's your advice. They have to awaken something inside of us that resonates exactly with what's coming in from the outside, so that the voice of wisdom that's coming in is the voice in our own hearts that we just haven't been able to put words to yet. It's the same voice that's coming on inside us. It's just that it's radiating from the outside to awaken that voice and give it permission, to give it inspiration to come into the world. So that's how you know that you're in the presence of someone who can help you, is because they are not giving you stuff that you can run through the filter of your mind and figure out whether you believe that or not. They are you speaking through the core of your being as well as outside of you. That's how you know, because that resonance of what lives inside you is also outside you. And when you find the fields that you're supposed to be in, with the beings that are in those fields, something inside you knows. The awakening of your immanent spirituality corresponds with the awakening from the outside. So when Earth humanity finds its alien civilizations, the part of developed awareness and consciousness that is supportive of Earth humanity going through its change, it won't find someone new. It will find the realization that that's always been there inside us, that wisdom, that love, that blessing is resonant with something that is already part of our origin, that our origin as a soul is shared, and that shared origin, just as a shaman, you know, when I talk to the whales and they show up in the outside, it's not that they showed up because I figured out where their migration routes were. They showed up because they heard the relationship, that the relationship was made in the inner worlds, and then of course the outer worlds resonate. So Einstein says, you know, everything is music, and that nothing in the world can stop you, what is outside of you showing up in your life if you're vibrating at the same frequency. That's just physics. So if Earth humanity really wants help, its relationship with cosmos is not just a relationship of science. It's not just understanding black holes and understanding the Higgs boson and doing experiments and so on. It's a heartfelt relationship. We have to remember that we belong in cosmos, and that we are loved, and that there is energy out there, sentient energy, that is us, that loves us, and that will respond to our religious longing, not just our scientific desire for understanding, but our heart's longing to belong again and to restore our relationship, our sacred relationship with this being, this living sentient being of cosmos that we are swimming within. Just as the earth is in heaven, then humanity is also within a great field of love. And that love, you know, again, religions have talked about, you know, from God gave his only begotten son, or this avatar came, or that. But the time of the culture that's ahead of us is for humanity as a whole, not just through one or two people who have opened doors, but for humanity as a singularity to remember its divinity. And that divinity is not a concept, that divinity is something alive and moving through the whole of the soul of the world, and through all of the expressions of the soul of the world, which are the individual points of light and fire that live at the core of each of us. Okay, so maybe I'll with Siri being disabled, I'll just do that meditation so that I can conclude with a little taste of experience. So if you just get yourself comfortable and invite in the many different layers of your own being. And feeling, locating yourself in time and space, locating yourself in this body, on the crust of this planet, spinning around the sun, orbiting the center of the galaxy, flying apart through interstellar space from many other galaxies. You are this, your body is located in the physical universe. And then feeling your own awareness in its shamanic and spiritual dimensions. So in its shamanic dimensions, feel your awareness in sensation. And direct your awareness to where your body is touching the ground. And feel that interface between your body and ground. Feeling your awareness through your feelings and your eros. And then just, we'll try that with the erotic sensation. So the feeling where your erotic energy meets those around you, and maybe the erotic energy of nature, the erotic energy of trees and oceans. And so feel your erotic and the field of Eros that your Eros is part of. And then try letting go of holding your Eros in you and just become that field. So let go of your erotic field and just become the whole field. So decentralize your Eros. And now you are at the field of Eros that contains your own erotic body. But you're not confined in it. Okay, so now come back and integrate your spiritual awareness. So feel your whole body with all of its chakras, all of its vibrational dimensions as a torus, like the earth, with a North Pole and a South Pole. And feeling the light of the soul as it permeates all of your light body. Dances at your crown like the aurora borealis, and at your base. Just feel your own electromagnetic body in a field of radiance. And now at the crown center, where the northern lights are playing out in your field, to see if you can let go of being this electromagnetic field and become the light. So use that place where the radiance is impacting to let go and become that radiance itself. Just be the sunlight. And as the sunlight, feel the earth inside you. And now as a field, find your source. What is the source of your sunlight? And just allow yourself to be drawn into that source. Now see if you can both be the source, the sun, and the field, so that you are the source of light, but also the whole heliosphere that embraces all of the planets. And then feel the edges of your field, where the heliosphere touches into stellar space. And those cosmic rays are hitting the heliosphere and also penetrating it. So now you're attuning yourself to that invisible radiation. And then see if you can let go of the edge, on the edge of the heliosphere. See if you can let go and merge with that invisible radiation. So you're just this field that the sun, with all of the planets, is held within. And see how this field passes through everything, all of the matter. And then find the source of that field. Where is that field emanating from? And just allow your awareness to be called into the black hole, the center of the galaxy. And then see if you can feel the immensity of that field, the dark halo that embraces hundreds of billions of suns with their own planets, moons. And then feel out beyond the field of the galaxy into intergalactic space. And when you're feeling this field, see if you can also feel the love and intelligence that's intrinsically part of this field. A different love and intelligence than the solar field or the electromagnetic field of the earth. And then bringing your awareness back to the center of the galaxy. Sending yourself forth like a ray of dark to the heliosphere, to our sun. And then feeling the sun itself within its own group soul. There's other stars around it. The part of one field of shining. And then send out your solar rays to Earth, this planet, this personal self that sits within these fields. And arrive in the north and south poles of Earth and penetrate in as light. Bring your awareness now into your own aura, physical body, coming to your heart center. And then see if you can feel in your heart these different vibrations. The vibration of Earth, the solar light vibration, the vibration from the core of the galaxy, the vibration of the universe, all with their own music. All playing through this one vibrating instrument. And then bringing your awareness back into your ears and you're listening. So hope to give a taste of the fact that we're not just a radio antenna, we are the radio waves. We're not just an individual point, but we're the field in which those points exist. And those fields are layered, like cosmos is layered. And that we can find our way in cosmos, not just through the scientific part of our brain that understands information, but that we can journey there with our souls and eventually our hearts. That if our hearts and our minds are linked, then the soul's longing to have relationship and meaning with the world around us are fulfilled. Deep disturbance in the core of the human being of separation from it's the love that is all around us is overcome if we allow our hearts to go on the same journey that our minds take. That we form a personal relationship with the center of the galaxy. Like our hearts already have that relationship. Just haven't brought it into our awareness yet. We haven't brought the love that we are sitting in into a wakefulness inside our own being. And if we reestablish this vertical relationship with cosmos, it also takes us into a relationship with the earth. So it gets us beneath the crust, because as we expand out into the galaxy, we also go in. And ultimately, the relationship with the core of the earth, that of this one being that we are, that our bodies are part of, as a sentient and awake and loving entity, begins to dawn on us as we realize we're in a sentient, awake, and loving universe. Yeah, I would love to encourage a generation of humans to restore their direct, heartfelt relationship with cosmos. I know for me, when I wrote my book called Cosmology, I spent a year rising and setting with the galactic center instead of the sun, rising and setting with orienting myself to this deeper sun that our sun goes around. That if you take your relationship with cosmos seriously, if you invest a little bit of what we invest in our relationship with each other, then the results can be amazing. And I think those results will form the core of the mythology of the civilization that is to come. All right, it's me for today. I'd love to hear where this intersects with your being. Receive any questions or comments.
Hello, it's me, Carmen.
So they're putting their hands up. Have you got that sorted? Okay. Hi.
Hi. I just want to say, it's the third last time I'm coming to you workshops, and
Yeah.
every time I see you, it's I'm resonating. But now when you're crying, well, I thought you're crying. I feel so much love for you and for everybody. So thank you. And even I don't resonate with, I don't show love because I always did as a child. Yeah, I noticed the last time I feel different and much, and you are helping a lot in what I feel like confirmation. So I want to thank you. And even now when you're talking, it's like my heart chakra was opening very much. So yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as living vibrational beings, we all respond in different ways, to energies. So I'm glad your heart opened.
I just wanted to say hello and to send my love to you, brother. As always, everything you say resonates with me deeply. I remember we started this conversation many, many years ago. And here we are. It feels like the showtime is really now. Thank you.
Hey, Luba, it's so good to see you. Yeah. And I think you're an example to me of that very thing point that I'm making about aliens, that we have to be already that which we are seeking to contact. And I know when your soul and mind came together, it was just a recognition of something that already exists. We already are part of something. We're part of some love that has yet to find its language yet for human beings. And so it was a great celebration to feel that. Send you love.
Hello, my dear. Just wanted to say gratitude, and I feel your hearts. I feel our hearts. This was beautiful, and I just feel joy that the awakening is happening, and you're leading with attractive sail. You know, we all think that the boat that goes forward, the sail is, the wind is pushing, but it is actually attracting. And that's what my sense is about your transmutation and transmission today. For us all to recognize and know that also Cosmos attracts us back home. So deep gratitude. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I feel for me that a lot of what's required for new civilization simply this, that we out into what we're afraid is an empty universe, but it's actually full of other beings just waiting, music of our souls, like recreating itself across the world, across cosmos. So yeah, this great solar wind of our souls waiting to shine and meet each other and form patterns of music. So I felt that in your sharing. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you so much. I just wanted to share that my north has shifted recently quite a lot. And I have been in academia, and I am feeling that I don't resonate anymore. I am leaving. I was an expert in UN, and I'm leaving. And I'm trying to find my voice where I could still use my brain, scientific brain, but really, really connect the mythology and the science, and just speak up, be brave to speak up. So thank you for your example, and I hope I find my way to bring my gift in the universe as well.
Thank you. It touches me to know that you're, like so many people, stepping out of where your comfort zone has been because something inside you needs to speak a deeper language, and that language of love. And I love to know that that your scientific and deeper understanding has found its home in its marriage to mythos and meaning and longing and love and these things that are inside the human beings. That it's not that we leave our job at the UN or our science lab and then go home and love exists in our family. It's like the love has to be at the core of science. And the great scientists, it always was. It was their love and their longing for meaning and relationship with the mysteries in the universe is what drove them. So yeah, I feel like so tragic that the best of our universities offer, the scientific or business or whatever that is divorced from soul. And I think that that's one of the things that we're trying to do with the restoration of the temples and the mystery schools, is how the best of our young people who have this great, beautiful longing in their soul find its resonance in their work. So may you do that in your journey, and I look forward to whatever contribution you make from that place.
I don't know what, oh, it's my turn. Hello, dear Bruce.
Hi.
I'm so happy to have this moment with you all. I came in late, so I'm sorry, but I came in at the right time to sit in your beautiful meditation. It brought me back to a place of, oh, I want to cry as I speak this. I just thought, oh, I want to go home to Shambhala. I want to run back there. In my meditation, I sit in the universe on a regular basis in my own little space. And to have you lead this meditation just took me to another place. And I found it incredibly poignant that you're doing this work today. We're starting the Parliament of the World's Religions. 10,000 people are participating worldwide. And there's all kinds of events going on right now because we are bridging a new reality. And it is those of us who are sitting in this knowing, yourself and all those that you lead, that we are here to herald in this new age. And I'm just so honored to sit with you once again. So thank you so much for your time and your knowledge. And as we were in that meditation, I just had this vision of you in like the art, like when I die, you're going to be up there in the, you know, you're going to be there meeting me in spirit and saying, okay, job well done. Because I know.
Cecilia, it's so good to see you again. I'm just going to give you a glimpse of where we are. Cecilia was one of the people that came to Haydn back in 2000. And so beautiful to feel your vibration and know you're out the world and in the middle of that vortex of the new religion. You know, I always felt that core of your soul so aligned to that, the love and the music in your being, finding its home in a vast field. So yeah, grateful for this little moment of radiation between our lives 20 years on. And yeah, sending you much love with what you're doing and also breathing that into what we're doing here, which is trying to love you. Okay, well, one more. Okay.
Is it me?
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay. A lot of what you talked about resonated, especially I come from quite a mind perspective, and I'm really struggling how to connect to something beyond mind. I'm just wondering, like, I really resonated with a lot what you talked to, but I really struggle getting beyond that. And I'm just curious if you have any suggestions on how to get access to stuff that isn't so mental, because I find I'm already quite quite mentally oriented. So when you do all this talking, it's like, oh yeah, this sounds all great, but it's still sitting in my mind and I don't feel it beyond that. And I'm just wondering if you have any suggestions on how to get beyond that, the constructs of what you're talking about to actually lived experience.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's a very good question, and having a great mind is awesome foundation, but being able to get the soul free of mind so that the soul that is able to resonate with these realities can then use the mind to turn them into beautiful clothes and ideas and concepts, which is what great scientists do, is that they download into the mind revelations of the soul. So meditation has been the great path for those in mind. What you want to be able to do is gradually bring your awareness so that you're aware of your thoughts, but you're not thinking, so that you can witness your thinking process, and the soul can be in mind or be out of mind. And then, of course, what the great revelatory scientists do is they make their journey in soul, and then they come back into mind and think through the maths, you know, like think through the conceptuals, but actually the revelation happens outside of mind. So meditation, but find the kind of meditation that helps you rest in awareness, and begin to be able to
I can do
witness your
that.
own
Like I can sit and notice I'm thinking and get beyond my thinking, but then there's nothing. I'm just curious how you tap into other parts that aren't mine. Do you know what I mean? And how you can differentiate the difference. Because like I can look at a beautiful view and but I'm seeing it, but it's not like I'm living in it. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm viewing it. So I'm just
so then
like,
that's the linking of awareness with heart and eros. So in other words, just awareness can observe, but it's our heart's longing for relationship, and it's our erotic longing to be one with, to merge with, that brings the expansion of your awareness to other fields of awareness. So the meditation that we did helped our awareness expand into the fields that awareness is held in. And it's the longing of the heart and of our whole being to seek relationship with that is what provides the rocket fuel that allows that awareness to make those connections. So linking up your awareness itself with the longing in your heart for love, for connection, for relationship can be helpful. Okay, well, I think, no, I've got one more.
Hello.
Hi.
Yes. Hey, Bruce. Greetings from Nicola.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Hi. Yep, I can.
Yes, amazing. So thank you for this beautiful talk. Listening to everything you say, and the first thing that comes into my mind is how all those scientists and the people who are in the front line of science are not just dissolving into pure love and power from realizing the vastness and the interconnectedness of everything. So my question is, from your opinion, like what is the resistance, and where is it rooted from? Like from people who are in the front line of science, and
Yeah, it's a good question. And I feel like scientists suffer from the very same like disease that's trapped the whole of humanity, which is individualizing and materialization. So when a scientist becomes more concerned with whether their information is quoted in scientific journals and their status and their funding and all of those things, that materializes the pure longing of the human consciousness to seek the mysteries, and turns that into a copywriting of those mysteries and an identification with the individual and with the individual's, success in a very individual world. So pure science is driven from, like you say, the expansion of awareness into the great mysteries, so that awareness disappears. It expands into the pure awareness. Whereas when you materialize it, you like go to the ocean and get a bucket and copyright it and then make that your thing. So you're now the expert on that. And then, your university program is dependent upon it. So just that tendency is a materializing tendency that brings everything down. Whereas I'd say that the great invitation for science is to contemplate the mystery as a lover that can never be known, rather than as, something that you can just get a bit of knowledge from. And if that, it's the same as in a loving relationship. If you are always contemplating the beloved as other, as mystery, as sacred ground, as revelation, then those revelations go on forever. But if you just contemplate them as one being that you now know and you're the expert on, well, then, your soul disappears in that process. So I would say, one of the ideas of the old academies, Plato's or Pythagoras or whatever, it's like they went for the pure joy of the experience, not to get status and, to pay for their latest, society. So we've so far come down from what the soul's longing to know the mysteries was. And I think that's the first thing that needs to be broken. And I would love the next generation, for our best young people, to have access again to the soul mysteries of humanity, and to have their longing to penetrate into the deeper mysteries, to be supported in some other way than through our universities and our finances and our politicians and so on, that then turn them into the people that make the old society continue, rather than what they should be. What the great scientists always were was the bringing of the new and of the unknown, and the breaking of the old with the radical awareness of what's arriving. So yeah, thanks for the question. And I think we're going to leave it there today. So appreciate your coming and vibrating in this human cosmos relationship, and feeling the ripples that go out from that into the future. So between worlds, we're still between worlds. The new world hasn't come yet, but we know where to look for it, at least inside our own psyche. Much love. Have a beautiful 2 weeks. See you again.